All right, today we're going to take a journey, a deep dive right inside the brain to meet a natural compound that you've probably never heard of, but scientists, well, they're getting pretty excited about it. It's called D-Limonene. So, what is this stuff, and why is it making such waves? I want you to imagine something for a second. What if your brain had a volume knob? You know, one you could reach for when things just get too loud, too chaotic, too much. A way to dial down the static and just find that clear, calm signal. Well, believe it or not, that's the kind of balancing act our brains are trying to pull off every single moment of every day. The best way to think about your brain is like a massive, non-stop city, just buzzing with activity 24/7. It's powered by this incredible network of electrical signals and chemical messages, all flashing between billions and billions of cells. It is quite literally an electrical storm in there. And just like any huge city, you've got to have a system to manage all that traffic and keep things from spiraling into chaos. And that system? It relies on these things called neurotransmitters. They're the chemical messengers that let your brain cells talk to each other. But here's the thing. Sometimes that conversation gets a little, well, overexcited. The signals start firing way too fast, and you end up with a kind of neural traffic jam. So, the big question is, how does the brain get things to just calm down? And this is where the main character of our story enters the picture. Scientists are looking really closely at a natural compound called D-Limonene. You actually already know it. It's what gives citrus fruits like lemons and oranges that amazing smell. Now, let's be super clear. This is not a magic cure for anything. But what the early research is suggesting is that it might be a really fascinating little helper, a potential sidekick for the brain in its constant quest for balance. So that's the big question, right? How in the world does this one tiny molecule possibly have such a big impact on something as ridiculously complex as the brain? Well, it turns out D-Limonene might be a bit of a multi-talented superstar, with not just one, but 4 different potential superpowers. Let's start with its first and maybe its most important power, its knack for supporting the brain's own natural calming system. Think of it like bringing in a master negotiator to help everyone in the room just take a deep breath and chill out. To get this, you first need to meet GABA. Okay, so if you think of your brain's excitatory signals as the gas pedal, go, 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 then GABA is the brake pedal. It's the main chill-out signal. Its whole job is to tell neurons to slow their roll, dialing back that overexcitement and helping bring things back to a calm, orderly state. And here's what's so cool. It's how D-Limonene seems to help out GABA. It's not just doing one thing, it has a whole 3-step plan. First, it seems to help the brain literally make more of the GABA brake pedals. Then, second, it helps boost the power of the GABA that's already there. And third, it protects the GABA that's doing its job from breaking down too fast. I mean, that's like a full-service support system. So how does it boost the signal's power? How do you make the team better without always having to be the one scoring all the points? This is where a really amazing biological concept comes into play. This little comparison explains it perfectly. Some compounds are like the star player on a team. They get the ball and they score the goal directly. But D-Limonene seems to be more like the coach on the sidelines. It doesn't score the goal itself. It gives the star player, in our case GABA, the strategy and support it needs to perform even better. Now, the fancy scientific name for this coach is a positive allosteric modulator, or PAM for short. What it does is bind to a slightly different spot on a cell's receptor, which makes that receptor extra sensitive to its natural messenger. So in simple terms, it's that volume knob we were talking about. It doesn't write the calming music, it just turns up the volume on the GABA music that's already playing. Pretty clever, right? But wait, D-Limonene's resume doesn't stop there. Its second superpower is acting as a master of the gates. You see, every single one of your brain cells has these tiny little gates, they're called ion channels, and they control the entire flow of electrical signals. They are the traffic controllers of our brain city. And it looks like D-Limonene is a really skilled gatekeeper. It seems to help manage the sodium gates, which keeps neurons from firing too often, too fast. It also works on the calcium gates to help regulate overactivation. And it supports the potassium gates, whose job is to stabilize and calm the cell down. It's a master traffic controller at every level. But we're not done yet. The last 2 powers kind of transformed D-Limonene from just a manager into a full-on protector, acting as both a bodyguard and a firefighter for our super delicate brain cells. Okay, power number 3, the bodyguard. You know how a piece of metal can get rusty if you leave it out in the rain? Well, our cells can suffer from something kind of similar called oxidative stress. It's like a cellular rust that can cause damage over time. D-Limonene appears to act like an antioxidant, helping to protect our cells from this rust. And it does this in a few really smart ways. It seems to boost the brain's own internal cleanup crew. It helps strengthen the outer walls of the brain cells to keep them safe. And it supports the tiny power plants inside each cell, the mitochondria, to keep them running at full strength. And finally, we have power number 4, the Firefighter. Sometimes the brain's immune system can get a little too worked up, creating these tiny, simmering fires of inflammation. Now, a little bit of inflammation is actually good for healing, but when it becomes chronic, it can be really harmful. D-Limonene seems to help put out these little fires, acting as an anti-inflammatory. Whew, okay, that was a lot. A GABA coach, a gatekeeper, a bodyguard, and a firefighter, all packed into one tiny molecule? So let's just take a quick step back and look at the big picture here. So, to sum it all up, the preclinical science we've looked at suggests D-Limonene might have 4 key powers: the chill factor, by supporting GABA; master of the gates, helping control ion channels; the bodyguard, by fighting off oxidative stress; and the firefighter, by calming down neuroinflammation. That is one impressive resume. Now, I need you to listen very carefully because this is the most important part of this whole conversation. It is absolutely critical to understand that all of this is based on preclinical studies. D-Limonene is not an FDA-approved treatment for epilepsy or for any other medical condition. This is emerging science, not medical advice. Which leads me to this. It is so important to always, and I mean always, talk with a qualified healthcare professional before you even think about taking D-Limonene or any other new supplement. They are the only people who can give you advice that's right for you and your health. And that kind of brings us to the end. The research into compounds like D-Limonene really just goes to show how much we still have to learn about the incredible machine that is our brain. It leaves you with this really fascinating question. What other amazing secrets are just hiding out there in the natural world, waiting for us to discover and understand them? Thanks so much for joining me.